All right, we are going to go ahead and start our meeting. I'm Councilmember Doreen Garland, and I have Councilmember Joel Navarro, and this is the beginning of the Human Services and Community Safety Committee meeting. It's important to understand that no formal votes or decisions about city programs, policies, or budgets will happen here. Our role is to explore various topics with staff and stakeholders and community members and to make recommendations to our council colleagues. We want this process to be transparent, inclusive, and easy for you to be a part of whenever you choose to be. And you can share your thoughts with us by filling out a comment card about any item on the meeting agenda or by reaching out to us directly with any other thoughts, questions, or ideas. First, we need you to fill out a comment card in advance that we can read into the record for any agendized item. The link to the comment cards can be found on our committee webpage at www.tempe.gov/HSCS. And you will also find contact information for committee members and staff there for any non-agendized questions as well. So I am going to call this meeting to order, and we will get started. You were next.
Thank you, Doreen. I move to approve. I move to approve October 18th, 2023's meeting minutes.
I second and vote aye.
And we vote aye. All right, that's done. Thanks.
It always cracks me up. The committee welcomes comment we're on item number 3. The committee welcomes comment according to the Arizona open meeting laws. The committee may only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Matters brought up by the public under the public appearances that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. We have 30 minutes allotted for public comment with up to 2 minutes per speaker. Speakers will be called in the order of the comment cards that were received. Any comments not presented today will be entered into the public record. So I have one comment card, and so we will go ahead and call up, if you're available, Kendra. Please state your name and where you're from.
Sure.
And you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Kendra Flory. I am in Tempe, Arizona, one of the co-founders of the Broadmoor Bike Bus. And I just wanted to thank council and staff publicly for the new bike infrastructure on College between Southern and Broadway. Thank you so much for hearing your neighbors and what we have been advocating for. And I wanted to support continuing effort for other bike and pedestrian infrastructure in pursuit of safer streets and using creative solutions to engineer driver behavior changes. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kendra. And is that the only speaker card we have? Okay, thank you. All right, so we will go ahead and move on to item 4A1. And I would like to welcome Carissa Fowler, Heat Mitigation and Resilience Specialist from the Sustainability and Resiliency Office to provide an update for us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for letting me speak today about the Tempe Resilience Hub Network Initiative. My name is Carissa Fowler, and I am the Heat Mitigation and Resilience Specialist with the Sustainability and Resilience Office. So the work I'm about to discuss today targets 3 Tempe performance measures: community health and well-being, and community and municipal carbon neutrality. So why are we pursuing this project? So we are pursuing this project because there is a threat in Tempe that we need to ensure our communities are continuously building resilience to, and that is extreme heat. Extreme heat is the most common natural hazard that we experience in the valley, and in 2023 in Maricopa County, extreme heat resulted in over 550 deaths. That's almost 200 more deaths than in 2022. And this is projected to only increase in our future, especially with climate change and global warming, with new heat records being broken every year. And with these higher temperatures comes hazards like heat waves, residential and neighborhood fires, and power outages, which can and has resulted in the displacement of Tempe residents. So when we talk about hazards in Tempe, these are the main hazards that we're looking to mitigate and build resilience to. Higher temperatures are also affecting our first responders, and research shows that in the summer there are more 911 calls for service, and with heat-related calls for service mostly happening in northern Tempe. So this shows that along with changing climate, changing temperatures, and more severe hazards, we are also seeing a stress on our emergency response teams during the summer. So how can we improve our collective resilience to hazards and ensure that everyday challenges are also mitigated? We can build our community preparedness and response and our social capacity and capital. Building community preparedness looks like coordinating emergency response efforts between organizations that can provide health and safety to our communities during emergencies. This can look like organizations participating in heat relief through cooling centers, sheltering during disruptions, or being a place for food or resource distribution. It can also look like an organization contributing where needed during an emergency and providing essential services based on the disruption at hand, utilizing their connections and resources. Building social capacity and capital looks like strengthening the network of relationships in our community, building upon those relationships, identifying and utilizing community assets, and ensuring that programming and services are aligned with community needs. This can improve community members' resilience to everyday challenges by ensuring that their daily needs are met in a respectable and attainable way. So our approach to improving community emergency preparedness and building that social capacity and capital is to pilot and build out resilience hubs. Resilience hubs are trusted community facilities designed to assist residents in their daily lives, respond effectively during disruptions, and aid in recovery. By utilizing trusted spaces like community centers, places of worship, or educational institutions, these hubs can empower our communities to achieve a wide range of physical and social objectives before, during, and after emergencies. This is really important as we're entering a new era of climate change where every year like this year, we're seeing our heat records broken and seeing our grid and emergency response teams pushed to new limits. So by having trusted spaces where community members go to every day to meet their daily needs and using those spaces as central gathering points during emergencies, we can really improve our community's ability to respond and recover to disruptions. And the idea is to have a network of these resilience hubs that serve in different ways so that we can coordinate resources and emergency response more effectively. It's this bottom-up grassroots approach to emergency management that really shifts the power and the confidence to residents and organizations to respond to emergencies when official response might be limited. So the goal is to have a network of resilience hubs and supporting organizations that can stand up during emergencies, offer resources, but also 99% of the time serve their community on an everyday basis based on their needs. So there are a handful of cities across America adopting the concept of resilience hubs, and we're learning from their best practices and really thinking through what will work best for Tempe. So for example, the city of Baltimore focuses on their faith-based organizations, and the city of Austin focuses on their city-owned community centers. And then Puerto Rico is a beautiful end goal concept of resilience hubs and where they could possibly go, as their hubs are equipped with solar, water storage, gardens, and relevant programs and services. So really taking these best practices and thinking through what will work best for Tempe. So learning from other networks, the Tempe's Resilience Hub Network will bring together organizations that are already serving their community every day or are interested in serving their community every day so that we can create a network of resource coordination and helping hands between local organizations, the city, and community members. So the idea is to bridge social gaps so that we can better support our community every day and during emergencies. And through this network, we can share resources and ideas, partner on grants, participate in emergency preparedness training, and overall build relationships within local organizations and within our community so that we can better collectively serve our community. So the outcome of this work and the outcome of this initiative is to prepare city and community serving facilities like our recreation centers and multi-generational centers and our faith-based organizations to respond to disruptions so that we can provide health and safety to our community. So in collaboration with FMR and CARE 7, we are attempting to establish emergency plans that we can have at each Resilience Hub site. So when a disruption does happen, the organization knows who to call, where to get resources, and how to fill in those gaps. So just to give an example of what it looks like to respond to emergencies as a resilience hub. So last summer, we as a city responded to a power outage that affected over 400 residents during a 110+ degree day. And we set up a shelter at the North Tempe Multi-Gen Center where we provided cooling, food, water, and refrigeration for medication for individuals until that power was restored. Another example of acting as a resilience hub, is stepping up where needed. So for example, a church near ASU prepared and set up a week-long camp for students and teachers, giving them food and games and providing parents with relief during the Red for Ed strike. So despite unexpected high attendance, the church utilized their existing resources to provide successful camp operations. So this is what it looks like to respond to emergencies as a resilience hub, is stepping up where needed, responding to an uncertain disruption, and then using existing resources that they have or are aware of to provide for the community in the needed way. So how are we choosing our resilience hub sites and starting this work? So this initiative started as part of our Climate Action Plan update in 2022 with the goal of increasing community connections and our ability to respond to emergencies collectively. In 2023, we got funding from Council to assess 30 sites for microgrid feasibility as part of our Resilient Energy Hub Master Plan so that we can work towards getting these sites equipped with solar and battery storage in the event of a power outage. 10 of these sites are going to be police and fire stations, 10 are going to be our community centers, and 10 are our community-led facilities. And the purpose of this study is to identify microgrid feasibility in places that house essential services. And to identify those services, we will be working with our Community Services Department, the Red Cross, and doing other organizational assessments and having internal conversations. So how are we choosing those 10 community-led sites for the microgrid assessment and to pilot their resilience hubs? So we've been doing lots of outreach and engagement with organizations that already participate in emergency services, in community services. And those that are showing interest are our faith-based organizations. So some criteria for being part of this microgrid assessment and piloting our resilience hubs are that they are in or near our heat priority areas. So the darker on the map, the higher in priority. And we also tried to spread these out from our recreation or multi-gen centers so that our heat relief will be more spread out in Tempe. Then these sites either have experience in iHelp, the TCAA sheltering program, daily distribution services, or they offer daily programs and services to the public outside of their faith hours, such as health services, exercise classes, free laundry or shower services, etc. So first doing this microgrid assessment component with these sites, and then exploring ways for them to pilot our resilience hubs by participating in emergency responses and serving their community every day through targeted programs and services. So as an overview, these hubs will be equipped with the confidence in offering heat relief, shelter, or food or resource distribution during emergencies. So we'll be going through some assessments, some activities, some trainings to get them prepared to respond by having an established plan that they can utilize during disruptions. This plan will help us and the organization identify gaps in their capacity and identify solutions for those gaps utilizing assets from the network, their own connections, and city resources. So right now we're hosting monthly Resilience Hub Network meetings where we're beginning this emergency planning process, and we're working right now with a handful of those faith organizations and exploring ways that they can offer heat relief this summer. Then eventually down the road, we'll be doing some activities to get these organizations thinking about serving their community every day through programs and services and how they can enhance those services to serve better. So as we are hosting these networks, we would love to get your input on some groups or organizations that you think should be included in some of these resilience building conversations. We eventually want to open this network to other organizations that want to serve as resilience hubs or can help serve in another way. And if you ever come across someone that you think would be interested in this, feel free to give them my contact info. And thank you so much for letting me speak today.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the presentation. This is really timely and also going in before we go into summer for sure, to have a plan and to kind of have those refuge areas for our citizens. So with that said, we haven't truly identified, I know you showed some locations, is that the primary areas or spots that you want to have a resilience hub, or talk about that real quick?
Yeah, so like I said in the slide with the heat relief map, we've been reaching out to organizations that already serve their community, and we've identified 8 that are interested in serving this way. Would you like the list?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it's Tempe Church of Christ, University Presbyterian Church, the Church of Epiphany, Community Christian Church, Dayspring United Methodist Church, King of Glory Lutheran Church, Desert Palm United Church of Christ, and City Point.
So those, There are churches, obviously, and then if they're in a time of need, they are then qualified to be that refuge place.
We're exploring that with
Exploring.
them. Yeah.
So they have to meet some benchmarks, obviously, is what I'm hearing, in terms of the building, the size, and ventilation, and a whole bunch of stuff, I would imagine.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and qualifications will be different for sheltering versus food distribution if it's in a parking lot. And so we're going through some of our own inventory assessments and then bringing in the Red Cross to get their opinion about it. And then those essential services that they identify, if a room is good for sheltering, that could be something that we include in our microgrid assessment. So making sure that that room is backed up by power for 24 or 48 or 72 hours.
So I would imagine these buildings have to have some sort of generator. I mean, obviously, we're talking about solar, battery operated, and being able to withstand off the grid type of things. Generators are a qualifier.
No, they are not. So with this microgrid assessment, we're just trying to identify the feasibility of installing solar and battery to the facility. Obviously, to get funding, we're going to have to apply for grants in the future. So this is more of a long-term thing. But we want to obviously pursue funding for those organizations if they want to be relied upon in this way. And if there is a power outage, for example, the neighborhood might experience that, but the building might still have power. They could still be a shelter in that event. So it really just depends on the situation, but we will be applying for grants and thinking of ways to advance these services at each site over time.
So presently, is there federal grant money out there for what we're talking about, or is this something? Okay.
Yes, yeah, and we're actually applying for a grant right now to get some microgrids on our community-owned facilities, so our recreation centers. That's a CPRG grant.
I'm sorry, just one more, and I got more.
That's okay.
So when we talk about the facilities, okay, what else can they do? Like, say, for instance, the church. Is just being a church good enough, or are you asking them to do other things besides just being a church?
We're asking them to explore piloting this resilience hub concept with us. We're trying to make it feasible for them, so not asking for more than 2 to 3 hours per month, because obviously we want them to participate. But this is all based on the capacity that they want to provide for their community. If they don't think they have staffing to be a cooling center, that's something that we now know of, and we can consider our own resources to possibly get staffing for them. So identifying their capacity and then trying to fill in those gaps so that they can act as a resilience hub.
So when it's not a resilience hub, it would be then, let's just say, a program is going to be set up for just everyday use. I think you mentioned, am I correct?
Yeah, so if they have some classrooms that are empty throughout, and a lot of these churches do, and they are exploring ways to fill for those classrooms, we could have some workshops about sustainability. Human services could possibly go there as well. So just trying to identify what the community needs and seeing what that church, what that facility and that organization has to offer to hopefully fill those needs.
And that's great. And I like where we're going. The one caveat, and I just got off a phone call on this, that's why it's on my mind, is where we're doing services and what the services are. I was getting the call from North Tempe about we feel like we're inundated now with the sheltering with hotels. They're having problems in the area. It's one of those things where I'm trying to find out the best solution is when you provide a service, whatever that service is, it could have a long-term effect of what goes on in that area. So I think logically we have to have conversation on the types of services and the areas that they're potentially providing those services in as a community conversation. I think that's going to be huge because I do like the buy-in in terms of off-grid emergency shelter and stabilization and a refuge spot. I think that's critically needed. I think it's even more critically needed, throughout key spots within the cities, because if we talk about a larger disaster, more so than just heat, but just any type of emergency, I think we need to have some critical areas of protection that would be advantageous for a lot of residents all across the board.
And we're also thinking longer term about that blackout scenario. If we were to have a citywide blackout, how could all of these hubs stand up and serve in that way, even if official response like the Red Cross might not be available? So how are ways that community and that church can use their own assets that they know of to respond?
Thank you.
So what do we provide at the resiliency hubs?
Do I have access
Like, do they
to
have,
this?
snacks, water? Is there,
Do you mean for cooling centers?
yeah, I'm sorry, for the cooling centers, when people come there? Because reason why I'm asking is, we have so many great, wonderful people in the city of Tempe. If there are waters and snacks needed, could we do a water snack drive at the beginning of summer so that we can stock up these locations?
Yes, and we actually just had a conversation yesterday with Jessica Wright from the HOPE team,
Perfect.
who's leading the heat relief efforts, and we have new advancements in Maricopa County where they are providing us with some funding that we could potentially use to stock those places and also provide staffing if we need longer respite for longer hours but don't have staff for those last 2 hours. We could possibly fill that with this funding.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, and I'm glad that there's funding out there for that. I also think that for a community to buy in and feel like they're taking part and helping others in the community, sometimes collecting water and snacks is an easy one to do, but still really making a difference for the people that we're trying to serve. So even if we have some funding that we can do some funding, I think it'd be a really nice thing to be able to offer it to the community to be able to help in some way.
Definitely.
The other question is, when does the heat relief hubs, when do they start opening up? And what are their hours?
We are still determining hours.
Okay.
From my understanding, for our cooling centers, for our rec centers, it'll be normal hours, the 9 to 5. That's when they're normally open. But then working with these faith-based organizations that are part of this network to see if we can provide some longer relief, like a 9 to 7 p.m. For respite, so people can actually come in and rest during the hours, because obviously it doesn't cool off at night. And so when they rest, it's inside in these facilities. So right now, from my understanding, it's the cooling centers are going to be in our rec centers, and they're going to be open to normal hour times, exploring ways for them to be open a little longer, but then really working with these faith organizations to provide that longer term respite, heat relief.
I got the iHelp program started at my church, which is King of Glory, so I was very happy.
They mentioned you when I met with them. They did.
So I'm really, really happy that they're going to be taking part and stepping up to do a little bit more. One of the things I was going to suggest is that there's an organization. It was started by Mayor Hugh Hallman many years ago. After he left office a little while, it fizzled out. It's called For Our City. And so I just think that this would be a great presentation, that we have quarterly meetings, and the next one will be in May. But it is business leaders, community leaders, faith-based groups. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to reach some of those people that you might be looking at for trying to use them as a hub of any type. So I'll share the information with you later and see if we can get you those meetings.
Great, thank you. And I'm actually going to one of the meetings today, and then going to
our board meeting.
To the board meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be there today. And then
Perfect.
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to the Chandler For Our City networking breakfast just to see what it's like and potential interconnectedness of this program and For Our City. So
that's perfect. Bring us back some information.
Okay.
That's all I had. I think this is wonderful what we're doing, and I love the fact that this is all built around trying to care for the most vulnerable in our community. You guys are allowing us to be able to do that, and the city opening up the facilities and the churches that are participating. I'm just so proud of my city. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Of course. Thank you so much. Yes.
3 questions. Is there any other cities around us that are doing this?
No. So in the city of Mesa, I know that they've tried to work out this concept of resilience hubs through ASU. And I know that AFN, the Arizona Faith Network, is also working with a site in Mesa to try to establish this. But from my understanding, no, not in Arizona.
I know that last summer off of the light rail in Phoenix, over by the airport, they had a site, a hub for heat relief. So I know there was a couple in Phoenix that were doing that. I'm just wondering is, as we go through this, we're looking at key areas, but also knowing that I think we also need to probably work with other cities on this, not to take the full brunt of being the only area that's doing this, but also having other cities across the region that are participating. I mean, this is obviously, we don't get the heat only in Tempe. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think we need to expand that is one thing for consideration. and how we get to the regional level. Maybe that's through MAG, and actually through a committee that I'm chairing. This would be great information just to kind of understand, what's going on in Tempe and what we're trying to achieve, but hopefully share that with other cities to emulate that, especially off of key areas of transportation where bus transportation, light rail, whatever it may be, people be able to get there would be, strategic. And then the other thing is, obviously, the community conversations is huge on this. Does this have any advantages with new development? If funding is available, I'm looking at your picture right here, it's like, wow, that'd be kind of a cool thing to do, kind of be dual utilized as, something retail, but also could be something as a relief place in addition. Does this have that advantage with new development, and where would that new development go?
I'm going to bring Brianna up to answer
That's
that
all I wanted to happen.
Council members, I think that there's always a potential to incorporate what a resilience hub is to a new development, especially when you're thinking about the physical infrastructure, right? The solar and the battery storage. But really what a resilience hub is that programming and that will and that desire to play that role. And I think if we can get into early conversations with a retailer, a developer, they have somebody specific in mind that wants to play that role, we can get in and have those conversations right away. So I don't think it's off the table at all. Right now, of course, we're starting with faith-based organizations that have come to us with this clear desire to play that role and are kind of set up with the space and capacity to do that.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Any other questions?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank
That was
you so
wonderful.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
That was a great presentation. Okay. So we will move on to 4B or 4A2. Chase Wallman will come, Principal Planner with the Engineering and Transportation Department, to provide an update on bike safety. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Good afternoon, Councilmember Navarro and Garland. My name is Chase Wallman, Principal Planner with the Engineering Transportation. Maybe I have bad posture, I'm not sure what. That makes more sense. I'm a little bit taller. Okay. I'm Chase Wallman, Principal Planner with the Engineering and Transportation Department, and thanks for the opportunity today to provide an update on Tempe's bicycle program. So Tempe's bicycle program, of course, will incorporate the bicycle infrastructure. So we have 222 miles of bikeways, 180 of those being bike lane miles, 42 being off-street multi-use paths. This in large part contributes to us being one of the largest bike commuter cities in the valley, with 3.4% of our population being bike commuters. But beyond the actual physical infrastructure that Tempe's bike program is responsible for, we're also responsible for ongoing programs such as wayfinding signage like our bike boulevards or our bike routes, hosting Bike Month events such as Bike to Work Day, and also supporting other outreach events and education opportunities for bicycling in the city, as well as long-range planning programs. So that could be updating our long-range transportation master plan or other strategies such as implementing transportation demand management strategies, which I'll go into further. So with these efforts, we're very proud to be a designated bicycle-friendly community. This is a designation that's granted or awarded to 482 other cities around the nation, but Tempe is one of only 39 which are identified as a gold level bicycle-friendly community or higher. So we are a gold level, and we are striving to get to that next level, which would be the platinum level, but very proud to be a gold level bike-friendly community. So speaking about some of the outreach, to celebrate Bike Month, the city is hosting Bike to Work Day. This will be on April 17th and includes a 4.5-mile bike ride. We anticipate 400 participants in line with previous Bike to Work Days. It's an event that's held annually. And at each one of these locations, there will be 6 across Tempe. We'll be handing out free t-shirts as well as bike tire repair kits. Additionally, I want to talk about another Bike Month event, and this is actually supporting Cul-de-sac and Tempe Bicycle Action Group, who are hosting Tempe Pedal Palooza. That'll be held on April 13th, which will include a 6-mile bike ride, games, food trucks, and bike tune-ups. So these Bike Month events really give us an opportunity to be able to talk about changes in any bike safety tips or scooter use, as well as point bicyclists to available resources for them. So, for example, this gives us an opportunity to talk about Tempe 311. So if bicyclists see, like maybe after monsoon, you have a wayfinding sign that's been knocked down or some other obstruction within the bike lane, they have the resource of Tempe 311, which will connect them to the appropriate city staff in a very efficient and speedy manner. So they'll be able to direct them to our traffic engineering team or a right-of-way maintenance team so that they can address those issues very quickly. It gives us opportunity to talk about all the safety tips for using our bike lanes as well as now scooters. And then additionally, I did want to note some recent changes, which included the implementation of our scooter corrals, which an update was given to council. But basically, these are the areas where dockless scooters need to be parked within the downtown core, both staged and parked as well. So we have 42 around the downtown core, but these type of events give us just another opportunity to be able to educate the population of that change in the scooters. Speaking of our long-range planning efforts, Tempe's Transportation Master Plan was last updated in 2015. So this is really our comprehensive long-range transportation document, and this will detail existing conditions. So I included a couple pages here on the slide. So we look at demographics, we look at trends in transit ridership. So this is really an all-inclusive document that talks about street improvements, specifically bike and pedestrian improvements, transit improvements, and then other policy goals such as council's performance measure for seeking a 20-minute city. So all of these will be contained within the Transportation Master Plan. These are showing images of both the near-term and long-term improvements of 2020 and 2040 improvements that were identified in our last update. I bring this up because we will be updating the Transportation Master Plan later on this year. So currently staff is working on a scope of work where we'll be looking at the challenges and successes of our last Transportation Master Plan and then reiterating that. So really having an emphasis on our next update to evaluation of our projects and how those are prioritized, which we'll like to get feedback on how those projects end up getting prioritized. As well as looking at evolving technologies or emerging technologies. A lot has changed since 2015. So it's due for an update, and we'll be excited to kick that off and the broader public outreach of that probably later in 2024. Another one of our long-range plans and ongoing programs are mobility hubs. You may recognize this from a previous presentation in 2020. And that was the feasibility of what these mobility hubs look like. So these mobility hubs are really combining different modes of transportation all in one geographic location. So there's a kind of rendering on the bottom here showing Tempe's new bus shelter, as well as some other different modes of transportation that might be co-located. So you may have wayfinding, you may have, this will be located at a transit stop. There could be bike lockers, there could be other amenities such as showers. So this is really one geographic location, and they vary in scale. So we use an example here of Tempe Transportation Center because we have showers, bike lockers, designated scooter corrals, and lots of different transit options, both regional routes, neighborhood circulators, and the light rail, all co-located in one space. So this mobility hubs plan, we're now moving from feasibility to implementation. So what we're currently looking as right now is to prioritize locations for these mobility hubs, either within city right-of-way or opportunities when developments come in to co-locate those within the development. And that will work towards their required trip reduction plan points that are needed for their developments if they're of a certain size. So right now we're working on the implementation stage of that project. As part of that project, concurrently, we are looking to formulate a transportation management association. So this really goes beyond the infrastructure and targets things that aren't as much in our control that are on the private side of things. So currently, right now, just employers 50 or more are required by the county to submit trip reduction plans. With the formulation of this Transportation Management Association, it would be an independent agency where you would have members be a part of this agency. So it wouldn't be a city agency. It would be a third party. And what this agency would do would be to connect not only employers 50 or more, but those other scale employers, larger employers, medium employers, could be 5 or more, could be 25, but also other potential participants, which may be multifamily housing that generate a lot of trips. This Transportation Management Association, you would have staff members that site-specifically will be able to help these different employers or multifamily connect them to resources. So it could be getting them connected with transit passes. It could be locating one of these mobility hubs, offering incentives to take transit, or doing the dockless scooters. So this Transportation Management Association, we're currently working with pilot participants now. So we're gathering employers to participate and give us feedback on the usefulness of this and how this could be a resource for them going forward and how we could eventually expand the project. Yes, please.
So clarity. So this group would work with any company, various size, whatever it is, and maybe be able to pinpoint transit solutions for people that work within that company to get to and from, back and forth, whatever it is, near their area. So if they are outside of Tempe, would that also still be?
Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Navarro, for that question. I think that was a good summary of what the intent is for that. So it would be for Tempe. This one specifically for Tempe. The region is also interested. So I think they're kind of waiting for us to formulate this and see how our pilot participants go. There has been interest with other cities as well with implementing this. And there are cases, there's precedent outside of the Valley. There's not any that are in the Valley currently. But across the country, these are some examples of ones that are formulated. And typically they are city-sized, but they are other county-wide initiatives. Right now, just that Maricopa County, the one that requires 50 or more, the employers that have 50 or more employees, they're the only ones that are required to participate in that right now. We want to provide this opportunity to connect those resources to beyond just those 50 or more, because right now they're already required to do that. We would be able to help, the TMA would be able to help site-specifically. So they're required to do trip reduction plans. TMA would be able to help them, give them resources to develop those required trip reduction plans. But beyond that, anyone who wants to participate, this TMA will also connect them with resources such as the discounted transit passes. It could be working on their scheduling, maybe hybrid schedules. It's really employing all the transportation demand management strategies that might be available, and site-specifically looking, hey, you have a free neighborhood circulator that's a quarter mile from your business, or you may be a half a mile away from light rail, but there's these bike lanes here that connect you, or this off-street multi-use path that you might not be aware of. So be able to, with the participants, look at their site specifically and recommend resources that would help alleviate the demand.
I like this. I mean, you talk about, when we talk about affordability too, you know, we have areas that are affordable and they might be on the edges of Tempe, Phoenix, Chandler, wherever it is, but be able to get them to work and from work and then working with them, or within Tempe, it could be whatever it is. But let's
Right.
condense the distance. Let's make it easier to get to and from and where they need to be.
Right, and all the commuters too. That's a great point.
I think it's great. Thanks.
And then some of the ongoing programs I mentioned, Bike It, which is Bike in Tempe wayfinding signage. So the Bike It program is meant to connect residents and visitors to major activity centers and destinations. These are, so we have the bicycle routes, but these specifically are bike boulevards which are placed on lower traffic volume or lower speed streets or off-street multi-use paths. So these are generally your lower stress kind of bike environments. This was identified in our transportation master plan, this map here. So they run north, south, and east, west throughout the city. In 2017, we completed our first phase of install, which included that red handlebars route going north-south throughout the city, the green brake route, which is the Western Canal route, parts of College Avenue, which is the blue line there, and then we just finished construction on part of the Alameda Drive route, which goes from 48th Street to Rural, and the Reflector route is currently under construction from the US 60 to Warner. That's the Country Club Way project. So as these projects get built out, we'll be going back and putting this wayfinding signage, and now we're starting to get a network of interconnected routes So what we'll be looking at in our update with the Transportation Master Plan is how we might supplement these routes. So right now, these signs are just placed every half mile or when there's a change in direction in the route. What we'll be looking at in this next phase, once these routes get interconnected and more built out, is that we'll be looking at potentially designating close landmarks or distances to additional routes. So there'll be an opportunity to provide for supplemental signage beyond just designating what route is here. We'll be able to say you're half mile away from Kiwanis Park if you continue on this route or vice versa.
I was just going to say, I was just thinking of this is just before you said that, is like underneath this picture you have at spokes. It'd be great to have this map below it so people could see where they're going. So that's something you're looking at doing, because that'd be so helpful.
Yes, that's an excellent suggestion. Councilmember Garland, we'll be looking at that in the second phase as well, to have where it makes sense, maybe where these routes connect, where you have these larger maps. We'll want to look at the durability of those, but we'll figure that out during the Transportation Master Plan update.
Just to add on to that, even the signage we have here in downtown Tempe with the digital board displays, and hopefully we get those expanded into some other areas or other key retail areas where you can actually have these as part of the MAP program and other programs that we have. Thanks.
Yeah. So now I'll be getting into some of the infrastructure. So we talked about all the miles of bikeways that we have within the city, but as you're well aware, we have many access barriers throughout the city, which may include freeways or the Rio Salado or Tempe Town Lake. So I want to talk about some of our existing grade separated crossings. We have 3 existing pedestrian bridges that are the Elmore Pedestrian Bridge, this image on the right, which is near Tempe Center for the Arts. And then we have 2 over the US 60, the College Avenue and Country Club Way bridges, and those significantly help with connecting those bike boulevards. Additionally, we have 2 other pedestrian bridges that are under construction, and that's through the ADOT I-10 Broadway Curve project, and that includes 2 bridges over the I-10 at Alameda, as well as the Western Canal near Arizona Mills Mall. Those 2 are currently under construction and also has a public art integrated element to it, which is funded by the city of Tempe. And then we are also working on a preliminary design currently, which I'll go into further detail, of a pedestrian bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad. And that's at Los Feliz Drive. That will connect that Country Club Way bike boulevard that connects eventually to Tempe Marketplace and the Smith Road Bike Lane project. A significant barrier is Union Pacific Railroad. So I will go right into that here. So the image on the right is just showing a video flyover of the initial concept that was developed. We'll be seeking additional public outreach in April for this project. But basically, this is the last remaining segment of that bike boulevard at the Union Pacific Railroad. To the north of this location and to the east, you'll have the cul-de-sac community as well as the Smith Road Bike Lane project, which is currently under construction. That continues to Rio Salado Parkway. Just north of Rio Salado Parkway, you have Tempe Marketplace and the Rio Salado Path system. And then to the south of here, this is where you hit the Union Pacific Railroad. And so this project is really addressing the gap between that and all of our funded projects to the south of there. So to the south of this preliminary design project, south of the Union Pacific Railroad, we have a project that extends to the US 60 from Broadway, and that project is programmed for 2026. And then south of there is the construction project that I mentioned from US 60 to Warner. So this is our last remaining gap, and this is a project that we have preliminary design grant funding for, and we are currently pursuing additional grant opportunities to fund the project's construction. And then I'll just go over some of the current bike and pedestrian projects that are in final design. This first one is the Kyrene Roosevelt Farmer Bike and Pedestrian Improvement Project. And this project will connect Dwight Park, Clark Park, and Kiwanis Park, as well as the Western Canal multi-use path. We also have the 8th Street Streetscape Project. That's from Rural Road to McClintock, Rural Road to McClintock Drive. It passes Creamery Park. It will include a half-mile off-street multi-use path, as well as streetscape and traffic calming. The 5th Street Streetscape Project, which goes from Farmer to College, which will be right across from here. We have the Rio Salado North Bank Path Project, which will be the last gap in the North Bank from the Indian Bend Wash Path over to McClintock Drive. And then we have the Grand Canal Connection Project. This is kind of a 4-parter, and this ultimately will connect the Crosscut Canal to the Grand Canal, as well as the Rio Salado North Bank Path. And then finally, the Scottsdale Road Protected Bike Lane project. That project is from our northern border with the city of Scottsdale, Continental Drive, and will provide for protected bike lanes to Curry Road. And then this final project, the Circle, is a grade separated crossing at College and University, where we'll be exploring the feasibility for, or preparing, the final design for either an underpass or pedestrian bridge at College and University Drive. And then these are examples of recently completed or projects that are currently under construction. This first photo is our Western Canal Extension project. This also addressed a major gap missing from Western Canal to the Highline Canal. This is along Ken McDonald Golf Course in the SRP facility. So this is a before shot, and we used to have users making this connection but hopping over the fence in this location. So that's what it looks like today with solar lighting and the 10-foot wide off-street multi-use path with rest node. This is the Highline Canal project at Auto Drive. It was just dirt before. This is an opportunity to have rest nodes, public art integration, wayfinding signage, and drinking fountains. This is an area, Rio Salado Underpass at McClintock Drive. That was a before shot near Tempe Marketplace. This is after, again with public art integration connecting Tempe to Mesa, and then the recent College Avenue vertical delineation that was just implemented, as well as the green thermoplastic symbols. So it gives us the opportunity to continue to evaluate our projects, and we'll be able to go back, as is an example here, where we're able to supplement with some higher visibility improvements. And then upcoming, these are future CIP program projects. So the one I mentioned, the US 62 UPRR, that will be a continuation of our bike boulevard. We'll be looking at streetscape and traffic calming improvements, so improving the accessibility for pedestrians as well. And then the Rio Salado Upstream Dam Bike and Pedestrian Bridge. This is an image on the left. This is an image where we have completed the preliminary design and we continue to seek grant funding opportunities for. This would be on the east side of the lake near McClintock Drive. So this would create that full circuit around the Rio Salado path system and have direct connections to other off-street multi-use paths. And then the mobility hub implementation, the transportation master plan update, and then going back to some of our already established projects, such as the Indian Bend Wash Path or Grove Parkway path refreshes. So this will be installing new irrigation, new lighting, new concrete improvements where necessary. So going back to some of our established projects and refreshing those. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
This is a great presentation. I wish there were more people could see this and see all the really wonderful things you're doing for our cyclists in the community. So I'm just going to go through my notes here. One thing I just wanted to call out, the Broadmoor Bike Bus that is really working with the students at the elementary school to really promote bike safety and riding your bikes. And I think it's great also because the more we talk about it, the more parents think about it, and we're all thinking about safety and riding hopefully more. When we talk about bike safety, I hope that when you said something about kicking off another bike safety program or something to do with the roads and pathways, I think we really, really need to be working with our police department to combine that with driving safety, because cyclists can be as safe as they can be in the spots that we have and the line that's in there. But if our drivers are driving too fast or they're not paying attention, it doesn't matter how safe you are as a cyclist, you're not going to win in an argument with a car. So I really think when we do this and kick this off, we need to be doing it in partnership with trying to make sure that we are doing a driving safety or bike awareness program also. One of the things that you mentioned was about the Alameda drive that you're looking at, the Alameda bike ride. I've been on a number of bike rides with a friend of mine who has a Tadpole recumbent bike, and at Alameda and the railroad crossing, even if you're not on a Tadpole, there are these goofy bollards on there that are staggered, so you have to get off your bike and walk it through. She has to have hers lifted over and moved over. What's up with that?
Right. Yes. So that is a required improvement from Union Pacific Railroad to have those bollards there. We're currently trying to address the connection from that parking lot east to the rest of the Alameda Drive streetscape project. It's not something that we have programmed right now. Union Pacific would likely have additional requirements for the city for annual maintenance and then some of the infrastructure improvements. That's not currently programmed in the CIP. So right now, it's a designated public crossing with the infrastructure that's in place, but we can't modify that at this time in order to comply with Union Pacific Railroad's requirements. But it's definitely something that we've heard over and over again. It's not something that we readily have the opportunity to modify the bollards for. We would need to program additional funding to be able to do it to Union Pacific Railroad's new standards.
Right. It's just awful that it blocks the pathway in that way. Okay, thank you. The other one is the scooter stalls. Are they marked on a map anywhere, like on the bike and scooter map, or is there anything like that people know where they could park those scooters at?
I am not positive about City Resource that has that map available right now. I know that with the scooter companies, they communicate that.
Okay.
They communicate that with the riders where the designated corrals are, so it should be coming from their end, but I'm not sure if there's a resource available from the city side.
Okay. And then when you're looking at the pass, and we're looking at the hub where everybody can come, and the mobility hubs.
Right.
Those I think are fantastic. I think it's a great way to try to encourage people to do multiple different types of transportation. But one thing I keep going back to is we need our bus shelter covers up. To encourage more people to ride, we need to be protecting them and getting them in shade. When they're waiting for a bus, we can get them to those areas and be able to use other modes of transportation. And the other one is, I like the idea of the 311. I did not realize that. We have a couple residents that send emails to the council communicator all the time about issues. So should we be directing people or publicizing this more, that they should call 311? It might be a faster response.
I think that's likely the most efficient, just because it could be directed through the council communicator as well, but it may not be directed to the appropriate staff person. They may need to forward it to someone else. I think 311 is likely the most efficient manner, but of course a lot of residents also have our contact information, so if we receive something, we'll direct them to the correct resource. But Tempe 311, especially after hours, things when staff members might not be working, if it's a right-of-way maintenance issue, someone that's on call would be able to address it. So I think Tempe 311 is probably the best resource for efficient.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. I don't think I have anything else.
Just a couple quick questions. Do we have a connection to the airport right now?
To the airport?
To the airport.
I think the light rail probably for transit, and then for
I can bike.
Yeah, for biking, Washington Street. Washington has bike lanes along it.
I thought we're close, and I know Washington does have bike lanes around it. Actually, they're really nice. But it would be kind of nice to be able to highlight that, especially in downtown Tempe, because we have a lot of people that have the collapsible bikes, and they take them with them on trips, and or being able to work even with the airport if they have bike lockers there. Might be something interesting to consider. I know that they're trying to do a sustainability initiative over there also. So I think that might be in their wheelhouse, something we could bring up to their aviation committee, I think would be kind of neat around the region. The other thing is, I know that, Eric, I thought one day we had a thought of Kyrene Road and the Union Pacific Railroad tracks that got abandoned. That still could be a connection all the way, at least closer to downtown. But is there just too much problems with that now?
That was
this back in the day. Yeah, I think you were right there on that one with the map.
Yes. Yeah. So that I think my little bikers.
Oh yeah, your little bike map. That was.
Yeah, there we go. So this first one's actually that route. That's the evolution of that previous north-south rail spur project. That's the Kyrene Roosevelt Farmer Bike and Pedestrian Improvement Project. So that was where we had again the issues with Union Pacific Railroad. We asked council for a recommendation for an alternative alignment. It was recommended to shift the quarter mile to the west along Roosevelt. So this is that new project now is the Kyrene Roosevelt. So it'll still be on Farmer from University to 13th, but then it'll make that shift west to Roosevelt Street. And that will give us an opportunity also to address some significant gaps in sidewalks that exist there today along Roosevelt. And then it'll connect to the Clark Park, as well as Dwight Park further to the south, and then along Kyrene Road. That's where we'll be proposing a two-way cycle track on the east side of Kyrene, and that will connect you right to the Western Canal multi-use path and a new pedestrian crossing across Baseline Road. So it'll help facilitate that Western Canal connection, but directly connect to the Kiwanis Park. So that's probably the evolution of that route that you were discussing.
Yeah. No, this is really cool. I think this is outstanding what you guys are doing. I mean, the connections, I mean, this has gone, the progress of this since I've been on to where it is today is huge. I mean, there's so much going on, and I think there's a lot of paths that a lot of people have not explored yet, you know, just in general with their families and kids and things like that they could get around. And it's great that the groups are going out there and we have events. I mean, we used to have the Fat Tower event, and now we have the, it's blanking my memory. The which one? Yeah, Pedalpalooza. But even spiraling off that, just, you know, hey, we're doing this path today, you know, kind of make it a family fun event, and maybe a adult event too, you know.
Yes, definitely.
Might hit a tavern or two, let's just say. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move to item B on our agenda. And it's, let's see, talking about what our next plan is. So we will discuss updating our committee work plan at our next meeting, and we will also have an update in April on the Public Safety Task Force from them, an update from them. And then let's see, the next thing is our next meeting will be on March 20th, Wednesday, March 20th, for the Human Services and Community Safety meeting.